Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about the Hogue Incursion OTF. This is the double-edged dagger configuration in 154 cm, and this is the full-size model. So to give you a brief little size comparison, this is it compared to the Gen 3 Combat Troodon. And when I was lining these up, I usually exclude the glass breaker just to kind of give you an idea. So a little bit shorter than that. Very similar in size to the Gen 2 Combat Troodon, and very similar in size to the Benchmade Infidel. So going over the measurements. So total length, excluding the glass breaker, is going to be 9.25 inches. The handle's going to be 5.25. The blade's going to be 3.9, with the cutting edge being at 3.75 from this longer cutting edge. The blade thickness is going to be really in between the Benchmade Infidel and the Gen 2 Combat Troodon. And I don't know if you'll be able to see this. I mean, we're talking about some pretty small measurements here. But thickness on the Hogue is going to be 0.125 inches or 3.15 millimeters. The Infidel is going to be about 2.6, and then the Combat Troodon is going to be 3.2. In terms of width, measuring from the bottom of the blade across, the Combat Troodon is going to be 21.2 millimeters. The Infidel is going to be 18.4 millimeters. And then the Hogue, again, right in the middle at 19.6. Oh. So just to give you an idea of the size, the handle width is actually probably my favorite thing about this. So the handle width is going to be 0.46 inches or 11.75 millimeters. Very, very narrow, and it fits really well in the pocket. Another thing I want to note on these models, I think they're really, I think this really applies to all Hogue / HKs from what I've seen. But the switch is actually really nice. So you can see it's much smaller, much less surface area than the Combat Troodon Gen 2, or the Gen 3 for that matter. But the geometry of this switch makes it feel really nice in the hand. So it looks like it's centered right here, this ridge, but it's actually a little bit up, which makes sense because whenever you go to deploy it, your thumb's gonna be in this position more than likely, and then you hook around and you pull it down. So it makes sense. So going into the action, it's very snappy, and it's extremely easy to deploy. Not as easy as the Gen 3 Combat Troodon or the Infidel, but certainly easier than, say, this Vespa Scarab or the Gen 2. It's really, really nice to deploy. So going to blade play, there's an expected amount. You know, it's kind of what you would expect from an OTF. It's certainly not too much. It doesn't feel gummy. You know, you move it to the side and it doesn't feel like you can snap it. So there's a wall that you hit, and that's side to side also. So respectable amount. Definitely not no blade play, but definitely not, you know, like the Gen 3 Combat Troodon that just feels like it has too much. Other things to talk about on this knife, the sharpness. I know this could be relative too because you can get a dull one, but this is the sharpest OTF I've ever received really in my life. So I got it used from Blade Forms for $95. If you can get one at $95, please take it because it's an incredible knife at that price. And the guy I got it from had never used it, so I assume I got the factory edge, and it was sharper than any Microtech or any Benchmade that I've ever gotten. Really, really nice grind on it. So yeah, look, I'm gonna go ahead. Oh yeah, I do want to talk about the pocket clip. So the pocket clip is very similar to the older style Microtech, although I do prefer the Microtech. This does grip your pants pretty well. Definitely better than the Benchmade Infidel, for example. But definitely not as good as a newer or older model Microtech. Glass breaker, if that's important to you. I haven't used it, but I'm sure it's gonna be fine. Also, you have a lanyard hole, excuse me, and then you have some T8 screws. And I'm gonna go ahead and take this knife apart and add that part in to this this video. All right, guys, so I got it taken apart, and I also got this combat trot-on taken apart. So anyway, we'll go ahead and take off this faceplate. And as you can see, the switch is the first thing to fall off. So like I said, I got this OTF used, and to my knowledge, there is not a spring that goes underneath the switch. It almost looks like there could be a place. If I'm wrong, if anybody has taken apart a Hogue Incursion and there is a spring, let me know. That'd be good to know, but this model does not. So I'm gonna go ahead and start comparing it to the Combat Troton right now, because there are some really interesting differences between this Hogue and the Combat Troton. So the reason I'm using this this OTF is because this OTF to compare is because they're very similar. The mechanisms are the same, they work the same. But from what I've noticed, there does appear to be some almost lack of refinement. I know that kind of sounds snobby, but it's really the best way I can explain it with the Hogue whenever you compare it to something like a Microtech or Guardian Tactical. Although there is some things that I like about this. So we're gonna go ahead and look at the springs. So obvious difference is that the Combat Troton has one spring while the Hogue has two springs. That's likely why it's so much easier to deploy. There are these interesting, almost looks like a shrink wrap maybe, on the Hogue springs. I assume whenever it was new, there was two at the bottom and two at the top, and these have probably slid down over time. But maybe that's to help with maybe securing it or sound. Whereas the Microtech, as you can see, does not have any kind of shrink wrap, anything like that. So we're gonna go ahead and take out the sleds or tracks, whatever you want to call it. And you know, like I showed you before, these are very similar. These are the exact same size as far as total length and cutting edge. So I think this is a good comparison. So as you can see, the Hogue is wider, but the Combat Troton is much thicker. Much thicker. You know, and where you engage the switch is also thicker on the Combat Troton. You know, feeling it in my hands, it definitely feels like it's not as well made. You know, and the catches to me, off camera a couple minutes ago, I took this apart, and actually these catches, one popped out and I was trying to find it. If you've taken apart an OTF, you probably know what I'm talking about. But if you compare these catches, look how skinny, look how small that is compared to the Combat Troton. And if you're unsure, when I'm talking about catch, I'm referring to these pieces right here that catch the blade. And you know, on every other OTF I've taken apart, the bottom catch is larger than the top catch because it can be. Whereas with the Hogue, there isn't really any noticeable difference. I guess the bottom might stick out a little bit further. But you see the Combat Troton has that L-shaped right there. And yeah, I'm really surprised by kind of how cheap it feels. You see the thinness right here, and this is where the spring attaches. So if you want anything to be kind of sturdier, that would certainly be one of the places you would reinforce it right there. But you know, this knife is several years old. I'm not sure how much it was deployed before I got it. I assume not much, but I can't tell you that, oh, it's gonna fail quicker than the Combat Troton. I just simply don't know that. So I'm gonna go ahead and compare the face plates. So the Combat Troton on my right and the Incursion on my left. So not much to look at here. As far as I know, they're both 6061 aluminum. Another thing that I really want to talk about are the locking bores, because they're such an important piece. The locking bores on the Hogue actually seem to be a little bit longer, and looking at it with the bare eye, they seem like they're almost a tad bit thicker, which on the surface seems good, but then again, unless you know the type of steel, the type of metal that they're using for the locking bores, it really isn't saying much. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and take out the blades, and we'll compare those. So as you can probably see, the actually, I'm having a little bit of trouble getting this stop pin out. There it goes. So probably one of the biggest differences you can see right now is the difference in the stop pin. That is a massive difference. You know, that is, and I mentioned this in the past video, I don't think the stop pin is going to be your point of failure, but it is nice to see something that is that might have some redundancy in it. You know, after all, this is new. I think $300 and something, so it's not a cheap knife. I mean, it's on par price wise with the live wires, some Guarding Tacticals. You know, but anyway, let's see. Check out the blades. So basically the exact same length. Now, to be clear, I did kind of chip off the tip with this combat Troodon. I think if I hadn't have done that, they'd be even closer in size. So very similar stock. As you can see, they both have cutouts. The cutouts on the, I just noticed that the cutouts on the Hogue kind of seem a little sloppy. And that's just me observing. I don't know if there's a reason for that, but as you can see, the cutouts on the Microtech are very clean cut, and you have two cutouts here, and then you have these two right there. Kind of, it looks a little off to me. I like symmetry. I like, you know, things looking right, but you know, not that big of a deal. You won't see it too often. I assume they did that because of weight. That's what some people have commented in the past. But anyway, guys, look, that's pretty much all there is to say about these knives. You know, I'm using the combat Troodon as a reference, but the main thing was talk about the Hogue Incursion. You know, general thoughts. I think it's a great OTF. I think for $95, like what I paid for it, I think it's an incredible OTF. It's really hard to beat that price. But if you're gonna spend $300 new on it, you know, I would really look around and look at some other options. And this is really the main reason why. It just seems very, very cheap to me for the price. You know, it's made in America, but that doesn't necessarily always mean highest quality. So guys, I probably forgot something, but as always, I really appreciate y'all watching my videos and supporting me. It means a lot. And if anybody has any questions about anything I talk about, please comment and I'll get back to you. So anyway, I hope you all have a good day.